Hello, folks. Hope everyone is well. So today we have a very special guest with us, speaking about a very intriguing topic that actually is quite fresh in terms of like we haven't heard anything like this on YouTube. Certainly, we haven't heard anything like this, and he recently presented this at a conference. So the speaker, I'm sure everybody knows him because he's very well known, very popular, very well liked astrologer, a good friend. His name is Dr. Santhip Kanholy. And for those who don't know, just a little bit about him. He's got a PhD in mechanical engineering from Virginia Tech. So he went to the school in the States. He's actually from a family lineage of Ayurvedic healers. And he's been doing astrology for at least several years. Because I met him, at least I want to say at least 7-8 years back, and he was starting to get into his practice. So he's been affiliated with Dr. Pai and his channel, and he also does talks and teaching. He's also doing that. I will leave his email details so you can contact him directly. But for now, I'm going to leave it over to him so he can speak more about the subject and add a little bit about, his background if he wishes to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Namaste, Anayata. Namaste to all your viewers also. So thank you for inviting me to your channel. So it was interesting because today's topic was interesting because I've been thinking about this topic for some time. So I had a bunch of Nakshatra students, and I finished teaching them the Nakshatras kind of thing. So it came to like they still want to study something with me again. They didn't want to stop the course actually. So I was like, okay, fine, let's explore this topic. That's how this whole idea of this talk began. The idea is, of course, just simply looking into the Vishnu Sahasranama slokas and matching that with the Nakshatra padas, actually. But Vishnu Sahasranama, for those who don't know, the 1,000 names of God Vishnu is considered to be a universal remedy to improve your overall life. Your life is brought into balance when you do it every day, kind of thing. And there are people, it's one of those popular Sahasranamas out there after the Lalita Sahasranama, which is the 1,000 names of the goddess, actually. So both are kind of out there. So these are very popular 1,000 name practices which are very good for improving your karma and all that. Now, what makes Vishnu Sahasranama great is that it can easily match it actually contains 107, 108 shlokas actually. And for those who know Jyotisha, it's very, what do you call it, immediately the math picks up. You can see the 108 Nakshatra padas can potentially be matched to the 108 slokas of Vishnu Sahasranama. So I was kind of doing that actually. So I thought it might be interesting to see if we can map that shloka to each Nakshatra pada, see what is after, if that is true, if our mapping matches, if we can do more with that and so forth, So that's what I have today. I kind of introduce that idea and so forth. Let me share my screen. Let me share my presentation. So these are bits of, Vishnu Sahasranama is the concept that I actually presented in the Parshara conference actually. But anyway, something I presented before. I'm going to reuse some of those slides just to present those ideas. Of course, not go through the entire thing which I did there. But yeah, so we just have like introduction to namas, who is Vishnu, what is Vishnu Sahasranama, why study Vishnu Sahasranama, and then Vishnu Sahasranama and Jyotish, and further exploration and some interesting conclusions further actually. I think this will be a very interesting set of things to be familiar with actually. So we'll just go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fundamental idea is that you have this names of God as being is a fundamental thing in almost all the religions. You have Christian name of the God, you have the 100 names of the God in Christian tradition, you have the Jewish thing also with various names of gods and God as it's called. So you have different names listed out here and so forth. So here you have under 72 names of God in the Kabbalah tradition kind of thing, which you can see which is also relevant. So names of God is kind of helping you to understand what cannot be explained. You're kind of explaining it in the best way possible. You're kind of trying to give form to the formless action. So it's an attempt for that actually, which is what you're seeing. So
Yeah.
here then the set of Jewish names and so forth, all the meanings and all that you can see, which you can see going on. They are very fascinating set of names actually. You can see they actually say some of the names are very powerful actually. So for instance, you have one name as defying gravity. So the Kabbalistic people believe that if you chant this name again and again, you can actually start to defy gravity. Here is another name which allows you to time travel and all that, right? So all that is a very real thing in the Hebrew tradition or the Jewish tradition and everything. Anyway, so this is under prayer actually. Now, one thing I want to highlight further was that this is a very famous prayer called as the Anabakok prayer in the Kabbalah tradition. This prayer is actually supposedly very powerful. A lot of miracles have been associated with this particular prayer. So when you actually recite this prayer, a lot of healing miracles have happened. People have cured their cancer and all that. So a lot of amazing stuff have happened just because they've been repeatedly reciting this prayer. Actually, it's a very famous prayer. Actually, it's called as Anabakok prayer. So again, of course, it's each of the prayer has been further divided into each various lines and so forth. You can get a very specific kind of blessings when you actually recite specific lines. So, and this has been recorded. A lot of people experience this particular healing miracles and so forth, back from death kind of situations and so forth and all that. So, very fascinating actually. And so forth. Of course, now I'm coming from the Hindu tradition, and we have no, there's no lack of prayers here. So, I thought it was very interesting what happens when we actually dive deeper into our own set of prayers and namas and all that. So before we get into Vishnu Sahasranama, it's important to understand who is Vishnu. So for those who don't know, Vishnu is the preserver among the Trinity. So the Trinity would be the creator, preserver, and destroyer. Those functions of the divine. Creation, of course, is presided by Brahma. Destruction is presided by Shiva, and Vishnu is the preserver actually. So Vishnu famously is depicted with his Ananda Shesha holding a Shankha and Chakra and Gada, and sometimes he is holding a lotus flower. The Ananda Shesha is kind of behind him and so forth. It's a very universal kind of imagery all around Vishnu actually, which is what you see. Now each of them have their own. Each of the symbols have their own deeper meanings actually. So there are people who say the chakra, the Sudarshan chakra is anything that will attack attack your space kind of thing. Sudarshan chakra attacks that and protects you kind of thing, whereas the Shankha kind of gives you internal kind of wisdom kind of thing. Actually, the internal movement and willingness to see the internal universe within and all that. So all that particular aspect. Well, that is interesting and important actually. Now, this is another typical image of Vishnu as I mentioned. The Shankha chakra is holding a flower and Gada. Here, the Gada is in his left hand and his flower is in his right hand. So that's a different thing. Here you can see Hanumanji and Garda actually going on, and the Dikpala kind of devatas surrounding. Anyway, here is another depiction of Vishnu where he is depicted as the various lokas. Now, Vishnu here is the pervading aspect of the divine. The divine, that is the space aspect of divine. He who is everywhere. That is Vishnu. So here you can see Vishnu is actually depicted as various lokas also. So here you have his body is basically broken down into the Patal lokas, the lower world as it's called. Then you have the Bhuloka kind of thing, which is the torso kind of region, and then you have the heavenly lokas kind of thing above actually. So just something you're seeing going on. So it's a very fascinating way to look at Vishnu. Vishnu is not just a god who's sitting on top of a cloud and Andashesha and whatnot. He's actually like the entire aspect of reality. So that's what you're seeing here in this image. Very fascinating image. Here again you can see he's holding the chakra, shankha, and the gada and the lotus flower. So that's what thing you're seeing here actually. Anyway, now Vishnu is also fascinating because there is a specific form of Vishnu which is called as Harihara, in which the half form is basically Hari, which is Vishnu, and the other half is basically Hara, which is Shiva. So Harihara is a very interesting form like that. So you see this particular aspect where worship of Vishnu eventually gets you to Shiva also, which is very fascinating. So if you are a Shiva devotee, then definitely if you end up worshipping Vishnu, quite often you'll see your own Shiva devotion towards Shiva also increasing significantly. And that's a very interesting thing. Quite often they say if you have certain planets or if you have planets linked with Vishnu devotion, quite often you're pulled towards Shiva devotion. Or eventually if you're Shiva, if you have carry certain planets in your chart, even though it might be Shaivite in nature, you will eventually have to worship Vishnu to actually complete your sadhana and all that. So quite often this is a very important thing. So very important aspect. So worship of Vishnu is also equivalent to eventually worshipping Shiva. Very, very important aspect. Though the Rupa here or the Murti here is Hari and Hara, the deeper you get into the sadhana, this particular reality of the divine also comes through. Very, very fascinating there. Of course, why worship Vishnu, right? Well, here he is actually shown with the in the Bhagavad Gita, actually famously in the chapter 11, Krishna actually shows the Vishwadarshan as Vishnu. So he shows that how he is the entire world to Arjuna actually. And Arjuna is like, please come back to your normal form. I cannot see your worldly form and all that. So this is a very interesting aspect because quite often you see people who are like, who cannot who wants to approach the divine in the way they can, according to their capacity actually. So great rishis and great sages, they might be able to approach great God Krishna or great God Vishnu in their pure form as the Vishwarupa. Or even great warriors like Arjuna failed to see the Vishwarupa. Even he could not handle Vishwarupa actually. So it's quite it's very easy to assume why Vishnu could be worshipped as Krishna and all that from that perspective. So very interesting thing. Now what is Vishnu Sahasranama, right? So this is a very interesting point, which is what today's talk will be. So of course, for those who at least know some Indian mythology, Mahabharata is the great war between Pandavas and Kauravas, and famously Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. Krishna actually gave the discourse of Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata. So the same Bhagavad Gita in which he showed the Vishwarupa and all that. So what is interesting is that once the Mahabharata war was over, well, there is interesting. Mahabharata is also a very classical text. Apparently, it contains many other wisdom pieces. So famously, in the Mahabharata, you actually have something called as Pancharatna, or the 5 gems of the Mahabharata. Actually, one gem is basically Yaksha Prashna, in which basically you are having the discourse between Yamaraj, who appears as a Yaksha, and is basically answering questions or questioning Yudhishthira actually, which is a great dialogue in its entirety, which is considered to be a gem in Mahabharata because of the wisdom inherent and all that. There is another aspect in which Sanat Kumara, one of these eternal childlike sages who actually share their wisdom to Dhritarashtra actually, Sanat Sujadhyam as it's called, again considered to be a gem. The Bhagavad Gita which I talked about is also another gem that happened in the Kurukshetra battlefield. And then you have Vidurnidhi, something which Vidura himself actually explained to Dhritarashtra and all that, which became its own gem. And apparently a lot of kings would refer to Vidurnidhi before when they had to handle their running their kingdoms and their royal affairs and so forth and all that. And finally, the topic today is Vishnu Sahasranama, which is basically again considered to be a great gem in the Mahabharata. So which is very, very fascinating. Now, so that is what we'll talk about. Now, once the war is over in which the Kauravas were defeated and Pandavas ended up winning, famously Kauravas also, Ashwatthama famously killed many of the soldiers of the Pandava camp as well. So that's the other interesting thing. So even though Yudhishthira actually had won the victory over the Kauravas, he was still at a loss. So he is like dejected. He has no sense of peace in spite of having defeated the Kauravas actually, even after having defeated Duryodhana and killed him and all that. So for now, famously then he actually goes to Bhishma and approaches with question, how can I find peace in spite of the situation and all that. It is Bhishma who actually shares the Vishnu Sahasranama. Now, before Bhishma goes on to share the Vishnu Sahasranama, Krishna the Kshetrajna says to Arjuna, I am one with Bhishma now, Bhishma is one with me. Now, famously, again, Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows. He had the ability, he had the boon to choose his moment of death. So he was basically waiting for the Devyana to begin when Sun enters into sidereal Capricorn. So from that point on, they say it's easier. Whoever dies at that point, they basically go to the higher worlds actually. So higher Devaloka and all that. So at that point, Krishna is the Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna is someone who is aware of the field, who knows everything that is happening in a particular location. So he basically says to Arjuna, I am one with Bhishma and Bhishma is one with me. Only after that does Bhishma actually share the wisdom of Vishnu Sahasranama, which means Bhishma was enlightened. Bhishma was enlightened before his death. The moment Bhishma was lying on his bed of arrows, he had attained enlightenment. His ego was suppressed and all that. So finally, he was able to share the Vishnu Sahasranama like that. So this is the origin point of Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishnu Sahasranama originally came from old elder of the Kaurava family who actually shared shared his wisdom. However, the reality is that he was one with Krishna at that point in time. Something to keep in mind. So even though Bhishma, the mouthpiece, is actually Krishna's energy, which actually made sure the Vishnu Sahasranama came through. Very, very important point. Now, Bhishma shares the Vishnu Sahasranama to quell Yudhishthira's questions to the nature of the Supreme Being. So that is what Yudhishthira actually ended up having qualms about. He was unable to find peace within himself because, in spite of having defeated, he felt like he could not connect with the Supreme Being and so forth. And this is something that actually happened. Actually, so and this is very very fascinating because again, when Bhishma shares the wisdom and all that, Bhishma actually asked 6 questions, all of which is actually answered by Bhishma himself. And as I mentioned, the 1,000 names of Vishnu becomes a big thing. It's a very powerful thing, equally powerful as the Bhagavad Gita in terms of cleansing karma and all that. Now that's one other aspect. Now why study Vishnu Sahasranama? So I did mention right now, if you recite Vishnu Sahasranama, it helps you with your karma. Now, if you are a Jyotishi, you should recognize that the 10 grahas are considered to be the avatars of Vishnu themselves. So like the sun is the link with the Vishnu avatar of Rama, moon is linked with Vishnu avatar of Krishna and so forth. Parshurama is linked with the Venus graha and all that. So you have the linkage of Vishnu with the grahas. So if you actually start reciting the Vishnu Sahasranama, you can actually begin to purify your graha karma without doubt. There is no doubt about that. Parsha Rishi himself speaks about how the grahas are directly linked with Vishnu avatar. So very important thing.
Can you go through the each graha and ascribe?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have the Matsya avatar, which is linked with Ketu. Kurma avatar is linked with Shani, with Saturn. Varaha avatar is linked with Rahu. Narsimha is linked with Mars. Then you have Vamana avatar linked with Jupiter. Parshurama is linked with Venus. And then you have Rama avatar linked with Sun. Krishna avatar is linked with Moon. Balarama is actually in South Indian tradition is linked with Mercury actually. And Kalki is basically the avatar yet to be born. Astrologers link Kalki with the ascendant actually. Some astrologers could have thought they believe that Kalki is the ascendant. However, Kalki in many ways can represent the completion of Vishnu in the Dashavdara scheme of things. So there is a hidden significance with Kalki avatar. Kalki avatar is also yet to happen. So different schools. Yeah, Rahu is Varaha actually. And so forth. Rahu is Varaha avatar actually, which is going on.
Okay.
If you carefully go through the sequence of the avatar, this is basically a sequence of along the chakras actually. So Matsya avatar can be linked to the root chakra, the portion below the root chakra. Then Kurma avatar is the root chakra, which is Saturn. Varaha is Rahu, which is energy in the root chakra. Narasimha is like the stimulation of that, which is the willpower chakra. Vamana avatar is slightly in between that. Parshurama could be the Anahata chakra. Sun, the Rama could be the throat chakra and all that. Krishna is basically third eye region. Obviously, Krishna wears the peacock and all that. Balram is Mercury, could be again linked with, Balram is following, usually Balram is preceding Krishna, so Balram could be linked with the throat chakra, maybe Rama would be another chakra, Parshuram could be region, double another chakra thing going on, or a region between another chakra and the willpower chakra and all that. And then Balram is preceding Krishna, Krishna is the third eye, and finally Kalki is the Sahasrara chakra. So there is a hidden thing with the avatars of Vishnu also. There is a hidden kind of system going on there also from that perspective. But no matter what, Vishnu Sahasranama, the names of Vishnu, in which various names are directly linked with the names of the avatar and their deeds and their achievements and their stories and all that, makes it very powerful because you are calling out Vishnu throughout his avatars and all that. Yeah. Let's see. So that is one aspect. So definitely, when you recite the Vishnu Sahasranama, the 10 avatars of Vishnu are also called out. Without doubt, your graha karma also begins to get purified because those vibrations will begin to purify a lot of energy, your consciousness kind of thing with time.
And it's not enough to listen to it. You have to chant it. Yes, is that like if you're doing the remedy?
Yeah. So usually listening to it. Okay. So you have the concepts called as Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasa. So like Shravana, of course, is listening. Manana is basically like contemplation, as it's called. Nididhyasa is like where you're reciting it actually. Now, usually they say each of them is 1/10 stronger than the other. So, Shravana is actually listening to it is basically wanton lesser than manana, which is contemplation. If you do manana, it is wanton lesser than the nitidhyasa, in which you are like, you are reciting. So nitidhyasa or reciting is considered to be 100 times more than stronger than just listening to it actually. So I would really encourage to do the japa or recite the Vishnu Sahasranama no matter what. Now, though I can understand many people will hesitate, I don't know Sanskrit. Well, if you are Indian, if you're listening to this video, if you know how to read Hindi, you can definitely read Sanskrit. So I don't see that as a problem. And believe me, that can be done. The moment you do that, actually, you'll see a lot of things improving. Now, one thing I've seen myself actually is that when you recite the namas, one thing that actually happens is that depending upon your own karma, you will begin to see certain namas are easy to pronounce, certain namas are difficult to pronounce. And what is actually happening is that your karma is getting worked out when you are actually going through that process. And so slowly as your karma improves, you'll begin to see that the nama pronunciation of the nama also improves with time. Very important thing actually. Now you are not, this is not like a tantric thing in which you have a sequence or very specific thing which needs to be done. It's a bhakti thing. There's a lot more freedom. So even if you make a mistake, it's completely fine. As long as you apologize to the God in the end. Definitely apologize. Please forgive me if I make any mistakes. Kind of prayer is offered before you start, before you end your prayer. After you do the nama, make this particular request. Please bless me in spite of my mistakes. Then the deity is supposedly going to help out a lot. But again, if you repeatedly do this Vishnu Sahasranam, you will actually notice this. Certain namas are coming very easily. Eventually, they will take time. Something else in your life changes, then those namas will also become much more easier. Perfectly something I've seen going. And this happens in many levels with people who work on memorizing the Vishnu Sahasranam. I really do recommend a lot of anyone to memorize the slokas, by the way. Because when you begin to memorize the slokas, what happens is that your karmas will also begin to deeply be purified at the deeper levels of consciousness, actually. Deeper levels of subconscious and all that, it begins to get purified. If you're able to recite the sloka. And quite often, when you try to memorize your heart, one sloka is hard to memorize, you can actually map that to a planet in your chart. And that's an actual thing you will see also going on. And when you work through it though, you'll see things around your life will also change, will begin to improve, will begin to come to a point of balance. Like you can preserve the status quo kind of thing in many ways, even improve it further also. And only after that, that shlokas you are able to learn it. So it's a very important thing. I consider it. Now, so Maharishi Parshara actually recommends Vishnu Sahasranam as the remedy for all problems created due to grass. Now, definitely the Parashara Muni definitely keeps a huge gives huge importance to like Vishnu Sahasranam, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Like I said, if the 10 grahas are directly linked with Vishnu, you're directly going to the manager of the grahas and you're kind of sorting it out at the managerial level itself. So this is the easiest way to improve it. Definitely it requires investment in time. If you're doing 15 to 20 minutes of Vishnu Sahasranam Japa, definitely it gives you a lot of returns. And of course, it will take initially maybe 20-30 minutes. But once you get used to it, you can get to it 25-20 minutes kind of thing. 20-25 is very standard kind of thing when you get used to it. I cannot say that enough. That's one aspect. Now, the other aspect is that everyone wants Lakshmi in their life. Everyone wants Vishnu's wife, actually. So, famously, they say, wherever there is Vishnu, Lakshmi is beside him. So, if you want Lakshmi in your life, worship Vishnu. So, what ends up happening is that when you actually recite Vishnu Sahasranama, you'll actually begin to see that Lakshmi begins to show up slowly in time. So, when you actually get to a point where Vishnu can come in his full form, wherein his feet can also show up, because that's the level of energy and dedication you're doing, eventually Lakshmi also shows up in time. So wealth eventually follows what they say because of that. So that's a very important thing. A very important aspect actually, and I've seen that. So quite often there's a mistake in which many people are only focused on Lakshmi. It's a big mistake. People famously, people forget that the Devi has three aspects of Kali, Lakshmi and Saraswati, only one Lakshmi, which is a big problem. You need Kali to maintain Lakshmi, you need Saraswati also to maintain Lakshmi, all three are linked. Similarly, Vishnu is also directly linked with Lakshmi. Very important aspect. So I cannot say that enough. So definitely, a worship of Vishnu, reciting the Vishnu Sahasranama will also attract Lakshmi to your life. Similar to that. Now, according to Varaha Purana, in the Kali Yuga, Parashurama has cursed all the stotra to be ineffective in its potency. So this is a very interesting kind of thing. One of the classical issues in Kali Yuga and why Kali Yuga is creating problems is that many of these stotrams and the power has been limited by Parashurama himself, according to Varaha Purana. Now, having said so, he has made three famous stotras that is free from the curse of his curse. One of them is actually the Chandipad, which is the Devi Mahatmyam or the Durga Saptashiti as it's called. So reciting this is also powerful to cleanse your karmas because there is the curse of Parashurama is no longer applicable here. Bhagavad Gita is also famously free from the curse of Parashurama, and Vishnu Sahasranama is also very much free from the curse of Parashurama. So this is an extremely powerful text, even in that context also. So the Varaha Puranas also approves this particular stotra. Very important thing. You can see that. You will actually see a lot of blessings coming from that perspective also. Let's see. Now comes to the Jyotish part. So like as I mentioned in the beginning, how the Vishnu Sahasranama can be linked with the shlokas and the nakshatra padas and all that. Now this is a logic actually. Vishnu Sahasranama actually has 1,000 namas. There are 108 shlokas. And as I mentioned, there are 108 nakshatra padas in the zodiac as well. And each shloka can correspond to each nakshatra pada. Since each nakshatra has 4 padas, each nakshatra would be getting 4 shlokas each. Therefore, you can identify the shloka corresponding to your nakshatra pada being activated easily and potentially personalize Vishnu Sahasranama for you. Now, a lot of people have done this particular activity in many ways. It's very interesting actually. If you think about it, the logic is very direct. If you know the pada where your plant is placed in, identify the shloka from the Vishnu Sahasranama, definitely try to recite that particular shloka. You'll find that particular plant range is getting improved. It is getting like Vishnu's blessing. You're kind of inviting Vishnu's energy to help you to process that planetary karma. Now, again, this is a very famous approach. Many people have done that. Many Brahmins, many astrologers have recommended shlokas. Thousands of astrologers have recommended shlokas corresponding to your moon nakshatra pada and all that. It's a very good way to actually start improving your karmas in an overall way and all that. However, this particular study which I'm doing, which I want to present, is that in which I have actually seen you can do more than that. You need not be just moon nakshatra. You can do that with any graha, and you will actually see that will help out also. And that's a very very powerful thing. In fact, in a simple way, I can always encourage for someone to actually recite a shloka corresponding to their lagna, to their moon, to their sun, and more importantly, Jupiter and Mercury as well. Because Jupiter is the graha linked with Vishnu himself, and Mercury quite often is linked with Vishnu avatars actually, like Krishna and all that. So you can see when you do the Vishnu Sahasranama corresponding to those grahas, you might get quick results. If you want Jupiter, luck and fortune, great. Mercury, a benefic planet of intelligence and details and all that. If you recite the shloka corresponding to Mercury, that's also great. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I always learned that you recite this on Wednesdays to propagate Mercury because it's connected to Vishnu. Is that correct, or are you saying to recite it every day?
I would ideally encourage to recite it every day.
Okay.
Now, there are many standard advices given in terms of Dasha's remedies. So, a Mercury day, which is Wednesday, great if you're running Mercury Dasha to recite it on Wednesday. When you're running Jupiter Dasha, reciting the Vishnu Sahasranama on Thursday is also recommended. Both are great. I won't discourage that. However, if you are running Mercury Dasha and Jupiter Dasha, you might as well recite it every day. Why limit it to one day? In fact, what I've seen is that if you are reciting the Vishnu Sahasranama, no matter what dasha you're running, it still works. It's a very direct thing. So no matter what, because it's all the grahas are definitely getting triggered. All the grahas are definitely getting improved upon, no matter what. So that's a very powerful thing actually. So not many sahasranamas are capable of doing that. Vishnu Sahasranama can actually help you in that actually very very easily.
But
so
why is it then associated normally with what you hear is with Mercury or Jupiter? Like you said, it's more. Why do you say it's? Are you suggesting that it's more potent if you are running through the dashas of those planets or the antardashas that you recite and then you get the effects or the outcome is more auspicious? What are you saying, or are you saying that because it's associated with all the grahas? I mean, but that's to the lesser extent, or is it? Does it not matter?
Actually, what you said is very accurate, Anayata, because what happens is that when you are reciting the Vishnu Sahasranama, when you're running Mercury and Jupiter, you're already thinking in a Mercury fashion, you're already in that conscious space of Jupiter and all that. So definitely the Vishnu himself is carrying the energy signature of Jupiter and Mercury, definitely without doubt. However, if the one thing with the Sahasranamas and any mantras in general, one of the ways to increase its power and potency is to recite it every day, no matter what mantra you're doing. So even if you're doing the simple Om Namah Shivaya Japa, doing it 108 times every day builds up the power of that mantra actually. So there is an aspect where the mantra's vibration begins to enter into a deeper consciousness and so forth. And slowly that mantras, the vibration will enter into the deepest level from which pure karmas can be resolved very quickly and easily. So it's an energy thing actually, building up the energy with time. So doing it on a weekly rhythm kind of a thing is not a bad thing. However, if you do it daily, it's a supremely strong thing. I cannot say that enough. So once you experience that, there is no going back.
What if we're doing another mantra? Can we also do this? Does it affect, like if we're doing a mantra, let's say we're going through Rahu Dasha or Venus Dasha,
Right.
Saturn Dasha, and we're doing this very specific mantra for Saturn, let's say. Can we supplement it, or are you suggesting to substitute?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely no. No need to substitute. You can definitely supplement it because Vishnu is the one who maintains it actually.
Right.
But what you'll see is that, so like I said, Vishnu is also Harihara, Vishnu is also linked with Lakshmi. So when you do the Vishnu Sahasranama, what will end up happening is that your mantras also balance in a very easy way. That
Right.
is preserved in a much more easier functional way, and so forth you'll see. So quite often you will see when you recite mantras of Vishnu, your own other sadhanas get deeper actually, which is a very fascinating thing to see. You might not be a Shiva devotee, you might not be a Vishnu devotee, but you recite the Vishnu Sahasranama, which is a standard practice. Many people recite the Vishnu Sahasranama in the morning and they recite the Lalita Sahasranama in the evening. That's a technically very standard practice for many people. Vishnu Sahasranama in the morning will make sure your morning energies are very great. Lalita Sahasranama makes sure spiritual energies are much more stronger. So your material aspect of your life is maintained and preserved and it begins to grow like anything, which is a great thing about Vishnu Sahasranama actually. So that's great actually. So no matter what, the material wealth is always great. Jupiter is always good. Mercury is always good. And Mercury and Jupiter are benefics actually. So it's a good thing. Whereas Venus, Lalita Sahasranama, they say that Lalita Sahasranama can make you fulfill all your wishes, but there is also a deeper spiritual pull in that Sahasranama because it's also mystical in that Sahasranama and so on. But anyway, Vishnu Sahasranama is very, very powerful as I mentioned. Even if you are doing it every day, no matter what other mantra you're doing, you will actually be amazed because that increase in that Jupiter energy will actually improve other mantras actually. That's a very interesting thing. So quite often they say when you're reciting any mantra, you have to always chant a mantra to Ganesha, give an offering to Ganesha, and then recite a mantra. Same thing happens when you recite Vishnu Sahasranama also. You'll actually see when you do the Vishnu Sahasranama, it's like a universal kind of a buffer of sorts to all the other mantras and all the other sadhanas which you're doing. I cannot say this. Now again, like I said, if you try it for 6 months and then when you take a break, you'll notice it very quickly. But at the same time, you build up the energy for 6 months kind of thing, 6-7 months, then you can see how it's very potent and all that. So these are very experiential. You really have to go through a process to really recognize it. Usually I would encourage to target like something like a one mandala, target 40 days of continuous chanting. Eventually you can make it 100 days. Eventually you can make it 6 months. Eventually you can make it 1 year. And then you will see the change actually. And because all the grahas are getting purified, all the grahas are getting purified to the state where the best balance can be maintained. Like Vishnu famously comes to maintain dharma. So like similarly, dharma in your life will be maintained quite easily when you do the Vishnu Sahasranama. So definitely great questions, Anada, because definitely Vishnu Sahasranama will help you in actually balancing whatever mantra you're chanting even further actually, which is an actual thing. It's like you might get additional support with the Mercury energy which is coming through the Sahasranama, additional expansion which is coming up, additional space to do the practices what will come with Jupiter energy also which is coming through the Vishnu Sahasranama. Both are great.
And Vishnu is associated with preservation anyway, right? If we look at
correct.
So if we have that's kind of a stabilizing force in a way.
Exactly correct.
Right?
Exactly correct. So he actually stabilizes the mantras and your sadhana in a much more stronger way. What will end up, so for instance, if you are a Shiva devotee, you are actually reciting Shiva practices, you're doing some spiritual practices of Shiva. You start doing Vishnu Sahasranama, you will actually see your work life gets easier, you actually have time to do your Shiva practice much more easily. That kind of thing is what actually ends up happening. Because Vishnu is linked with Jupiter, Jupiter is linked with space actually. So you actually get the space to do the practice, this kind of thing, much more easy. That's a very powerful thing, so I cannot say it enough. So coming back to the shloka as I mentioned, so each shloka can be linked with each nakshatra pada, and many people have, as I mentioned, identify the Vishnu Sahasranama for a moon to recite it easily. Some people do it for their lagna. As I mentioned, it can be expanded to all the other planets, and you will get its own blessings also because of that. Because directly it can be matched to the nakshatra pada level, and definitely you can activate specific karmas also like that. So let's see. This is how it will look like actually. You have the 108 shlokas and so forth, and you have the entire nakshatras kind of thing highlighted here. You have the entire rashis also highlighted here. So you can see the 1 to 108 kind of thing going on and so forth. So the shloka 1 would correspond to Ashwini Nakshatra Pada 1. Shloka 54 and 55 would correspond to Chitra Pada 2 and Pada 3. And 108, the final shloka will be linked to Revati Nakshatra Pada 4. This is how it is usually done actually. So it's a very, very straightforward process as far as Jyotisha thing is concerned and so forth. Now what is interesting is that if you take it forward, so gratitude to teachers, right? So let's actually honor the Jupiterian energy or the teachers who helped out, including Krishna, so including Vyasa, including Bhishma and all other great, lineage of rishis and acharyas who maintain this knowledge. So usually before you recite Vishnu Sahasranama, usually they actually encourage to meditate upon Vishnu. So rather than directly jumping into the Vishnu Sahasranama, they encourage to do something called as the Dhyana Shloka, which is the meditation shloka. Now remember, here it is not the shloka that is to be meditated upon, it is Vishnu to be meditated upon. You're meditating on Vishnu. The shloka is like an aid, it's like a helping stick, it's like a supporting kind of sequence that can help you to contemplate upon Vishnu. So the quality of a meditation is what actually matters here actually. So here the shloka of course goes Shantakaram Bhujgashenam Patnabham Suresham Vishwadaram Gagana Sadrasham Megavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Gandham Kamalanam Yogi Bardhyanagamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavabayharam Sarvalokaikanatham. So he who serene lays on the serpent bed as the lotus navel from which all creation emerges is the Lord of all deities. He upholds the universe boundless like the sky with auspicious form of rain, dark rain clouds. Beloved of goddess Lakshmi, the lotus-eyed Lord is attainable by the yogis by meditation. I worship Lord Vishnu, the remover of worldly fears of separation and death, the true one master of the universe. Now, this is a very powerful meditation. So when you visualize meditation, when you imagine Vishnu as being in front of you, when you feel that energy of Vishnu in front of you as someone who is serene, someone who has the lotus navel from which the creation is emerging, someone who is the Lord of all deities, someone who is upholding the entire universe, boundless like the sky. With dark rain clouds is the color that is usually ascribed to Vishnu here actually. This is a very powerful color. Then you have goddess Lakshmi also present. Lotus-eyed Lord is also attainable by yogis by meditation. And finally, you're worshipping that Lord Vishnu who removes your worldly fears. Again, your fears are also dissolved here actually when you recite this, when you connect with Vishnu's energy, the true one master of the universe, which is also something you see. Once you recite the Dhyana Shloka, then you basically go to the Vishnu Sahasranam actually. Now here what I'll do is that for the sake of brevity, I'll just go with a couple of slokas actually, just to see how it goes and how it can be done. So let's see. So here the first sloka of the Vishnu Sahasranam is basically Vishwam Vishnu Vashatkaro Buddha Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu Buddha Krit Buddha Brit Bhava Buddhatma Buddha Bhavana. So Vishwam translates to he who is the universe, reason for the universe, the entire being. Vishnu, he was all pervading, omnipresent and remover of darkness. Now, Vashatkara, he one who controls and directs. Buddha Bhaya Bhavat Prabhu, the Lord of present, past and future. Buddha Krit, the creator of all beings. Buddha Brit, the sustainer of all beings. Bhava, he who exists with all the splendor and independent of anything else. Buddha Atma, the Atma, soul of all beings. Buddha Bhavana, one who nourishes and nurtures all beings. So again, now the first sloka of any particular stotram in general is very fascinating, because it's supposed to like encapsulate the essence of the entire stotram in general. So many yogic texts are like that, hidden like that. The first sloka is like the entire window to what the energy of the entire text is and all that. So something like that is what is happening here. Vishwam is basically the entire world. You are beginning the Vishnu Sahasranama by calling it Vishwam actually, and then you're having it Vishnu. So Vishnu itself is the essence of Vishnu Sahasranama. Even if you just standard Vishnu and Vishnu, you're still getting the job done. Of course, then to identify other aspects of Vishnu, you can see Vashatkara, one who controls and directs. Buddha Prabhu, the Lord of past, present, and future, and all that and so forth. So you can see that thing going on. Now, here as I mentioned, this can be mapped to Ashwini Pada 1. So what happens if you have planet here? Now, interesting question to ask here is that if you knew this shloka, and if you knew that this is going to map to Ashwini Pada 1, could you make the prediction for the person who's having a planet in Ashwini Pada 1? Very relevant thing. So can Vishnu Sahasranama make you a Jyotishi? That's a simple thing you can think about actually. And guess what? You actually can. So like moon in Ashwini Pada 1 is the case for Kate Blanchett actually. So again, I'll just repeat the namas again. Vishwam, he is the universe. Reason for universe, the entire being. Vishnu, he is all pervading, omnipresent, remover of darkness. Vashatkara, one who controls and directs. Buddha Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu, the Lord of past, present, future. Buddha Krit, creator of all beings. Buddha Krit, sustainer of all beings. Bhava, he who exists with all splendor, independent of anything else. Buddhatma, the Atma, soul of all beings. Buddha Bhavana, one who nurtures all beings. Now, very fascinating, because it's fascinating to understand the depth of the sloka and all that when you're looking at actors and actresses who are portrayed different kind of roles actually, because their characters are quite out of this world actually and so forth. So Kate Blanchett famously was the Elizabeth, depicted the Elizabeth Queen. Now, interesting thing you see here is that some of the namas are directly applicable to her. Yeah, Vishwam, he was the universe. At one point, the English Empire, the Empire of England was conquering the world and all that. All pervading kind of thing makes sense with Vishnu as a nama. Vashatkara one who control and direct. Definitely she played that particular role and all that easily. Buddha Bhai both a lot of past, present, future. Well, in the Hobbit and in Lord of the Rings series, she was Lady Galadriel actually, the elf who could actually see through time and who helped out the hobbits and so forth with their ring quest and all that. Definitely Buddha Prabhu was an actual quality which she embodied during a lifetime through the character actually. Buddha the creator world being, Buddha the sustainer world being, Baba, actually this splendor independent of anything else. So interesting thing is that here in the latest, one of the latest Avenger movie, in the Thor Ragnarok, she was playing the character Hela actually. This was the daughter of Odin who famously had powers linked with, the Asgard actually. In the movie, the Asgard finally had to be destroyed so that the villainous character she was playing could be destroyed. So this is very interesting actually, because if you clearly think about her energy was sustained by the Asgard thing. And the entire Asgard had to be destroyed so that, she could also be destroyed. So very fascinating thing like that. Now, this is where you see this particular aspect. She might have moon in Ashwini Pada 1, but still she still has sun and Shani in other slokas actually. So good chance that you're seeing the Shani influencing the sloka. And so of course moon is going to activate this particular sloka in a moon in a lunar way. But Shani impact upon is there. So because of which, this forces sustains also got remote kind of thing and so forth, which is a very interesting thing to see. And of course, she was also the mother character in How to Train a Dragon animated series also, movies also, that kind of thing. So definitely, if you didn't know anything about planets and so forth, you knew if Kate Blanchett had a planet here. Definitely, if you actually recited the sloka, you can definitely you can see how those slokas are coming alive for her completely actually. So you can see it coming up very easily. Now let's look at one more sloka.
Just to pause there, if you go back,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure people understand. We're breaking down the shloka, and the 9 categories here are the breakdown of this 4 line, and we're subscribing it. This is the English, obviously. The English translation, as far as we can get it, isn't it?
Yeah.
The approximate English translation. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this is approximate English translation, and you are seeing that energy, those kind of qualities of consciousness, something which eventually Kate Blanchett had to portray or carry or depict at one point in her lifetime. She had to maintain that consciousness, that particular state of being at some point in time. So this is exactly happening. So,
and if she was to take the practice up of just reciting this one shlok, right?
That's correct.
Basically, she's strengthening her moon, right? Because
that's correct.
Yeah.
So she's basically supercharging a moon with Jupiter energies. That's what is happening, and that will actually improve a moon's well-being in a big way. That will improve things significantly actually for her, definitely. And of course, it's not an easy sloka. If you recite the sloka, you have to meditate upon it. The energies of sloka will slowly begin to get deeper. You have to understand the meaning of it, and slowly you'll see this kind of helping out a lot. Yeah. Without doubt, the actors and actresses carry the energy to depict the character. So that is also another thing. They are carrying that potential to bring that energy out anyway. So you are seeing that thing clearly come out here actually. Very fascinating actually. But interesting thing I want to highlight here is that she has a moon in Ashwini Pada 1. She had her sun in Kritika Pada 1 and Saturn in Ashwini Pada 3. So the standard astrological technique still applies. So moon and Saturn exchanges are conjunctions happening. Sun is also moon. So definitely those malefic impact upon the moon, or Shani impact upon the moon kind of thing is also playing. Why is that? Why is she not being the full-on pure aspect of Vishnu in which sustainer of all beings kind of thing is playing? Well, the Saturn is impacting the moon. So that quality, that the sloka's energy being colored by the grahas influencing that. So which is what you're seeing. Not only the moon. Shani impact upon the moon is why it's like a darker aspect of that particular sloka which is coming out. Similar to that. So the planets are adding their own colors to the sloka is a very important point. And this could also include planets conjunct with that original planet and aspecting that planet as well. Very, very important point for actual Jyotisha students out there actually. Now sloka 2 is basically, you can see Pudatma Paramatma Cha Muktanam Paramangari Avyaya Purusha Sakshi Shetatnya Akshara Evacha. Pudatma 1 was a pure Atma. Paramatma, the supreme soul. Muktanam Paramangadi, one who is the ultimate goal for all souls. Avyaya, he was indestructible and who gives moksha. Purusha, one who existed before anything else and one who completes existence. Sakshi, one who directly witnesses everything. Kshetrajna, one who can direct to the place to reach a supreme bliss. Akshara, one whose greatness never diminishes. Okay, so very standard namas and standard descriptions. Pamela Anderson actually has Moon in Ashwini Pada 2 and her Rahu is in Ashwini Pada 4 actually. Pamela Anderson is interesting because Pudatma, one was the pure Atma, Paramatma, the supreme soul, Muktanam Paramangadi, one was the ultimate goal for all soul, Avyaya, he was indestructible and he gives moksha, Purusha, one who existed before anything else, one who completes existence, Sakshi, one who directly witnesses everything, Kshetranya, one who can direct to the place to reach supreme bliss, and Akshara, one who is greatness never diminished. Now it's very interesting because again, Pamela Anderson, one of the famous Playboy models, became a super hit model after Baywatch and all that. So Baywatch was interesting. And now interesting thing is that she also came on Big Boss in India also. She was also featured briefly in Big Boss kind of thing also.
Oh.
Interesting thing was that also with Pamela Anderson is that she was one of the first adult actresses whose sex tapes came out. So you're seeing the Sakshi kind of nama kind of thing coming up in a very interesting way. And not only that, remember it's the moon, it's not just moon in Ashwini Pada 2, it's Rahu which is influencing the moon. That's why the shloka again, just like how I explained, the conjunction of that planet is also affecting that shloka's energies actually, something you can see. So again, so Akshara and all that, Muktanam Paramari, there was a point when all women want to be like Pamela Anderson, because she was a sex symbol of that kind of run, all that. That particular thing you can see. The Purusha, one who existed before anything else, one who completes existence. Before there was any kind of Baywatch kind of scene going on, she was the first Baywatch kind of model and all that. All that kind of thing you can see. Akshara, one who's great and never diminishes, definitely. So she's a celeb right now and all that. The complete kind of celebrity in the Hollywood kind of realm right now. Anyway. So one next sloka I want to take was a different sloka, which is in Anuradha Pada 4. This is a very interesting sloka because I want to highlight one fascinating aspect, which is very interesting here. Here, this is the sloka: Archishman Archida Kumbho Vishuddhatma Vishodhana Aniruddha Pradirada Pradyumno Vimida Vikrama Pradyumno Amida Vikrama. Archishman, he was a great luster. Archida, he was worshipped. Kumbha, he who shines in this world. Vishuddhatma, he of a pure nature. Vishodhana, the purifier. Aniruddha, one who cannot be restricted. Apradirada, the matchless. Pradyumna, he who illumines the jivas. Amida Vikrama, he who immerses himself. Now notice that I have taken, this is a shloka number 68 actually.
Yeah.
So that's the other aspect. So we have gone far deep into Vishnu Sahasranam when I picked up not the third shloka, this is a 68 shloka. And now 68 shloka actually falls in Anuradha. Now, what is fascinating is that if you look at the shloka, look at one of those namas, it's Aniruddha. Well, it's a directly matching name of Anuradha actually. So there is a good chance that when the shloka was, Vishnu Sahasranam was originally designed, the Nakshatra padas were considered when it was getting designed. Very good chance for that. And it's one of those things here. You're getting some hidden clues here actually. Anuradha Nakshatra is perfectly matching the Aniruddha as a nama. So quite often you'll see that kind of theme repeating multiple times. And this kind of showing other hidden analytical techniques of Jyotisha kind of thing going on. Very, very interesting and important aspect here actually. So here we are looking at Pablo Picasso's chart, the famous artist actually. He has Moon in Anuradha Pada 4. It's in the 6th house actually. Moon is with Rahu and Mercury in the 6th house. It is getting the aspect of Jupiter as well, especially from Jupiter's in Kritika in the 12th house in his chart, which is what you're seeing here. So that is one thing going on. Archishman, he was a great luster. Archita, he was worshipped. Kumbha, he who shines in this world. Vishuddhatma, he of pure nature. Vishodhana, the purifier. Aniruddha, one who cannot be restricted. Apparatirada, the matchless. Pradyumna, he who illumines the jivas. Amida Vikrama, he who immersible steps. Now, perfectly describing one of the greatest artists alive, or who actually lived through, definitely Pablo Picasso and all that. Definitely, originally they say that Pablo Picasso had his own face in terms of his art, and then eventually he famously painted some of his paintings are very famous. Guernica is supposedly the most famous painting which you're seeing here in the world. I think it's in Spain right now. It's depicting the battle that happened in Spain kind of thing. You're seeing a lot of interesting artistic styles that is actually coming through here. He was also famously linked with the creating the Cubist movement. Actually, he created artists, for one of the first artists to bring about Cubism as a thing and all that. Here you see Picasso drawing a straw, drawing an ox, basically within like 1 second kind of thing, and allowing that to be captured by flash photography and so forth. He actually converted to one of these painting at one of these sculptures of a Labrador dog or something in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a full-on versatile artist actually from that perspective. So again, he of a pure nature, definitely, and someone who's an artist. He who shines in the world, Kumbha, definitely you can see that. He was worshipped. Definitely you're seeing that. Vishwadhan the purifier, great. Aparadha the matcher, definitely describing this great artist. And notice it's the plan to creativity which is moon that is going, which is kind of being described by this sloka. So all this creativity aspect is completely matches. Pratyumna, he illuminates the jiva. So he's actually giving light to those who died, kind of thing, and all that. Amida Karma, he of immeasurable steps, kind of thing, which is something you see. So it's a very fascinating thing. Of course, here I have only demonstrated like one shloka and all that for each planet. But like I said, if you want to complete the analysis, it's good to identify the shlokas corresponding to the planets that is conjunct moon. So to make the analysis complete, you would have to look at the shloka corresponding to Rahu in Jeshta Pada 1 and Mercury in, Mercury in Vishaka Pada 4, and then find those shlokas interaction. You can see those themes coming together in general. Something to keep in mind. But as a starting point, definitely at least look at the slokas, look at the slokas, the translation of the slokas, and try to match the slokas, the translation, to the quality of the graha. And you'll be amazed. The karkas of the grahas are perfectly describing what those slokas are doing and so forth, what those slokas are describing actually. Now, Vishnu Sahasranama has a very lot of other interesting layers, which I thought would be interesting to cover also. There is an actual line in the Vishnu Sahasranama in which basically Shiva is asked by Parvati that what if someone cannot chant the entire Vishnu Sahasranam? What happens then? Is there anything that can be done at that point in time? Now, famously, Shiva actually says that one particular sloka is capable of capturing the entire Vishnu Sahasranama's energy. Chanting this one particular stotra, which is Sri Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane. So that is what and it's equivalent to chanting this sloka 3 times. It's supposedly they say equivalent to reciting the entire list of Vishnu Sahasranama. Now, according to Shiva, a very, very important thing actually. Now, so here you can see Parvati Vacha is basically asking the question, and Ishwara Vacha, which is Shiva, basically saying this is how it can be done. This particular sloka can be done done in 3 times. Now, I have seen people who just recite the sloka like in a repetitive fashion when they are cleaning their dishes and all that, and that doesn't work. So that's the big reason why I want to highlight a little bit, describe it here actually. So of course it's Shiva who is answering it, and it's Parvati who's asking the question. So it's not an ordinary kind of a thing that is going on here. That's the first thing to recognize actually. Now, if you carefully understand Vishnu, you can see Vishnu with Ananda behind him over his head can be representing the yogi who has raised this Kundalini all the way to the Sahasrara Chakra. Very important point here actually. Someone who is working through their Kundalini energy, through their chakras and elevating it all the way to the top, and correspondingly quality of consciousness is also getting refined as that energy is also going upwards. Very, very fascinating thing and so forth. Very interesting aspect. So this is who Vishnu is actually. This is what the Vishnu Sahasranama eventually will capture without doubt. Now, so if you keep that in mind, if you keep this process of the Kundalini energy moving in mind, and you remember this particular sloka which I just mentioned, you'll see a very interesting thing going on. So let's see the progression of the Kundalini energy through the 7 chakras kind of thing is basically what you're seeing, and different chakras have their own significance, and they clearly are linked with specific aspects of our karma actually. There is an energetic significance there also, and a karmic significance also. Both are linked actually. Now, what happens is that when you actually recite the sloka, there is a hidden thing here. Parvati, in many ways, is considered to be Shakti actually, and Shiva is considered to be the Sahasrara Chakra, one who resides in the Sahasrara Chakra. When Parvati is actually asking something to Shiva, it usually means the Shakti is actually trying to get to Shiva actually. That's the other way of interpreting that. So that's a big thing going on. So what happens when this sloka is recited? The Shri is basically referred to the Kundalini energy, which is at the bottom of the Muladhara Chakra, hidden there actually. Then you say the next, second thing, which is Sri Rama. Now you are actually awakening that energy, and that Rama energy is kind of awakening that, stimulating that energy. You are awakening that energy in the Muladhara Chakra, and then you are awakening further to to the Swadhisthana chakra with the next Rama, Sri Rama Rama. This is what is happening. The third Rama is actually becoming Rameti. So Rameti is very interesting. Now it's not Rama, so there is a hidden quality of the Manipura chakra in terms of awakening, pushing that energy forward. So that's something you see, just solar plexus chakra. Then after that you have Rame. Now notice that it's even though English is not capturing that, it's actually Rame actually, not Rame or Rame. You just have to know that it's Rame actually. That is Anahata chakra kind of thing, which is very fascinating. And then you have the Rame. So the Vishuddha chakra is basically Rame, and then finally you have Manorame, which is basically going into your third eye region actually. The third eye, by the time you have already chanted 6 Ramas, you have already ascended the 6 chakras, starting from the Shri. That's the actual thing that is going on. Sri Rama Rama, Shri Rama Rama Rameti, Rame Rame Manorame. And then finally you have Sahasranama Tattuliyam. Of course, Sahasrara chakra is the hidden clue here. So you are actually awakening the Sahasrara chakra by this process. Sahasranama Tattuliyam Rama Nama Varanane. The final Rama is the 7th Rama. That particular sloka is matching the Sahasrara chakra. So when Shiva is telling Parvati that you just need to recite this sloka, there is a lot of hidden processes going on here. So not just mindlessly reciting this sloka and all that. Something to keep in mind. But if you're able to do this particular practice, very, very powerful thing. If you're able to sit down and actually feel that energy, feel that shlokas, energy is getting distributed along your spine, extremely powerful thing. Again, but this is a hidden thing going on. Ideally, something to recognize actually. Recognize there is a hidden process that is going on here with Vishnu Sahasranama if this particular sloka is recited, as I mentioned. Now, further study, I just mentioned one way how the Vishnu Sahasranama can be actually analyzed. So as I mentioned, we just looked at one sloka and matched that to Nakshatra Pada and all that. But there is more actually. You can do more for those who are interested in research and all that. You can look at the analysis based on the meaning of the names. Look at the meaning of the names. Is that matching to the Nakshatra qualities, the Nakshatra Pada, the Rashi and all that? Is the Nakshatra deity linked with the meaning of the names, as I mentioned, all that you can see. Various categories of names. So can you call the names as being different categories, like if it's like God or divine or description and all that. Look at the sound being activated by the name. So for instance, Vishwam, it is beginning with the V sound. Can you, which nakshatra that getting that sound, that mantra is activating which nakshatra, which planet and all that can be analyzed. Deeper nakshatra pada analysis can be done. Okay, is this like going into Aries Navamsha, Taurus Navamsha? Can you make analysis based on that? Additional mathematics involved, you can even break it down further depending upon your mathematical thing. And overall pattern of the sloka. So what is the overall dynamic energy? Is there more of one particular energy, one particular categories on namas and so forth? Something that can be further analyzed. There is another exploration that can be done based on the meaning of the name. Each sloka can be controlled with specific nakshatra. Each sloka contains various names. Each of those names could be linked with the deity of the nakshatra, as I mentioned. Each sloka could possibly be linked with the nakshatra lord planet, which I also mentioned. Each sloka could be linked with the Rashi was falling, and also linked with each nakshatra pada could be given the name. So very fascinating thing when you actually analyze it further. So there's a lot of depth to Vishnu Sahasranama and its Jyotisha based analysis, which is possible actually. Jyotisha definitely has a lot of analytical techniques. All this kind of richness of Jyotisha can be used to study the Vishnu Sahasranama also. And other techniques also exist actually based on the meaning of the name, planetary influences, the sound activator, nakshatrapadas, padas. Now, this is very fascinating because there is an actual deity on chart which you can derive from the Navamsha, and you will actually see it's matching quite well at the deity on level also, which is fascinating to see. So what you see is that when you actually do the Vishnu Sahasranama, you're actually affecting your karmas at your deity on level chart. What is that? That's a technical thing going on actually. Because of which your D60 level karma and system result and all that can be improved upon much more easily. And further examples exist like divisional charts and individual namas impact and all that can be studied further. All these are very fascinating research topics actually, something which I do. Now, in conclusion, after the journey through 108 shlokas and 108 nakshatra padas, you see, Vishnu Sahasranama namas matches quite well with qualities and themes on nakshatra pada level and can add a new dimension analysis to the placement. The individual shlokas can easily work through the specific challenges brought forth within Nakshatra Pada and can easily be used both as guidance and as an effective remedy as well. The energy of the namas is influenced by the grahas placed in nama when yielding final results. The shlokas can also be used for making predictions for the planet placed in that pada based on the graha. shlokas linked with different planets can interact through the interaction of planet energies activating them, just like I described moon with Rahu and all that. Rahu can impact moon flavoring all that shloka. And then the whole study points to the existence of an era where Jyotish seamlessly integrated with various gods and goddesses. A timeless era when Jyotisha was studied as an extension, an organ, a limb, an anga of great gods and goddesses, where knowledge of one eventually led to the knowledge of other. This is a very important point. So when you learn Vishnu Sahasranama, eventually your knowledge of Jyotisha would also improve. When you learn Jyotisha, your knowledge of Vishnu would also improve. Very straightforward that. And Jyotisha is a very powerful subject like that, which an Anga Veda like that, which can help you understand the Vedas more deeply as well. All that can be seen. And this is a very important point. So like when you actually couple your Jyotisha studies with a god or goddess, like when you're reciting, when you're having that bhakti aspect, when you're actually doing that sahasranama for a particular god or goddess, your Ishtadevata, your favorite deity and all that, you'll be amazed at how much your Jyotisha is actually expanding. It's not only expanding, it's giving you a lot more clarity, a lot more depth, the prediction become much more stronger and all that. So when you're studying Jyotisha, definitely if you're a student, definitely always try to connect your study with that of a god or goddess. I cannot say that enough. Because if you know the Vishnu Sahasranama by itself, like I said, if you know them by memory, you know which nakshatra pada is going to give what kind of namas and what potential it exists and all that. So a lot of amazing things can be done like that. So that's a very important aspect, something which I want to impress upon actually for today's talk. Anyway, so this is what I have actually. So this is my email also. Contact me if you have any questions. Now, any questions you had, Anahita, on what I shared?
Well, I mean, that is very good point you made at the end. We cannot just take Jyotisha on its own. We have to make the connection, which is why I talk about spiritual practices. Even if you have a spiritual practice it doesn't have to be mantra jap. It can be pranayama. It can be great, whatever. You cannot just take it alone. But the fact that you're connecting it the way that we're basically going deeper levels, and that's where we can understand. And it's not an intellectual understanding. It's as you reflection, right? And that reflection is bringing healing to the chart, right? You're basically giving your power over to that deity so that you can get, you can receive that healing from that deity. You can receive the healing. So this is what it's really ultimately about, right? I mean, the prayers you offer, you're getting that back, right? So connecting it with the deity that's the essence of a nakshatra anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
When we talk about nakshatras, what is the main thing? We look at, who is the presiding, yes, we look at the controlling planet, but the controlling planet actually we only look at just to see the calculation. But when we talk about a deeper layer and understanding that nakshatra, we cannot do that without looking at the deity and the characteristics of that deity, whatever it is, right? That's very, very
Yeah, exactly correct. So especially in Jyotisha, nakshatras for sure, you can see the important deity. The story of the nakshatras actually come alive for the native. The nakshatra deity and all that comes alive for the native very easily. It's an entire process. And definitely, if you have a spiritual practice, it's a very powerful thing. You can do more with Jyotisha without doubt. Now, if you don't have a spiritual practice, you're not doing it. If you exercise Jyotisha purely as an intellectual subject, you're missing out on a lot, similar to that. And when you actually, but at the same time, when you go deeper into it, if you have even the simplest spiritual practice, allow it to supplement the Jyotisha practice and all that, you'll be amazed at what you can do. But like I said, there was an era when these gods and goddesses were understood like that. Because that spirit of that, this topic as it's called, they had its own importance actually. So something that was recognized and taught also, so it's very interesting. The moment when you actually start start connecting with any god or goddess for that matter, I've seen your Jyotisha has actually improved. Vishnu is definitely a great point because your graphs are directly improved. No issue on that. All the graphs are directly improved when you do the Vishnu Sahasranam and all that. But then definitely without doubt, as you mentioned, some spiritual practice is very much required. I cannot emphasize that enough also.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. And so if we want to learn more about, because we know you said 1,000 names, we covered two or three examples, which was fantastic. But if we want to go deeper, if we want to learn more about it and connect it to the nakshatra, and would you say that your moon nakshatra again is the key? Like if you want to start with some kind of shlok, what shlok you choose? What would you say? You said moon ascendant, right? But is that how? If one was to take this in practice and decide, I want to.
So in practice, let me put it this way: your imagination is the limit. I can say that very easily. So, for instance, I have demonstrated here. You can directly link the nakshatra padas directly in the Vishnu Sahasranama sloka. Now, if you start to look at nakshatras in the divisional chart, you can get even amazing results. Of course, you can look at all the plants in a birth chart, look at the slokas corresponding to that, look at the ascendant also, look at the same planet and which nakshatra padas is going in the D10 chart, in the Navamsa chart. You'll be amazed at how that's also describing that. You can go even further to the D10 chart, the Shamsa chart. You can even go further to D60 chart. And you'll be amazed at how at each different levels, the quality, how the sloka is kind of getting much more deeper within you actually. There's another technique which I've been using in terms of breaking down the Mahadasha planet also. Like for instance, look at say you're going through Moon Mahadasha. So your first half of your Moon Mahadasha is going to be your Moon in your D1 chart. It's the results which will happen. Navamsha is the fruits of your karma. So Navamsha placement of the Moon is going to be what will eventually get. So look at the Moon shloka of your D1 chart. Look at the Moon shloka of your Navamsha chart. And then you'll be amazed to see your first half of your moon dasha is matching to the D1 chart Vishnu Sahasranama sloka. The second half is matching to the Navamsha Pada sloka. That is another technique. Another thing which I make my students do a lot is basically they try to, I may tell them to, you can do this thing with the BCP and all that. So if you know the BCP technique, the 12-year technique and all that, you can do further things like that. So look at the okay, you are right now in the 48 to 60 years of age group. So that is now linked with the group of, it is now linked with the Martian cycle in the BCP. So what is your Mars looking at? What is the Mars placement in this thing and all that? You can do more of that. So it's a perfect, powerful tool to understand karma actually. Like I said, the imagination is the limit. You can do more of that. You can actually, and as you said, Anahita, definitely look at the Moon Nakshatra, the Sun Nakshatra, Jupiter Nakshatra, Mercury Nakshatra, you'll see it matches very quickly. Then you look at Shani Nakshatra, when you look at Rahu Nakshatra, Ketu Nakshatra, Sloka, you'll see it's kind of describing how to handle that energy much more easily. If you look at Asnan, you can see the overall qualities of your life path. Look at the Navamsha Lagna also, you can see what your eventual life path is going to be also. All that you can see. If you look at the D60 level, you can see what your qualities are going on. Look at the D10 chart Lagna, you can see the overall career prospects and so forth. Amazing. Like I said, it's a complete tool. You can do many things with that. So someone to understand that, you can, like I said, your imagination is the complete limit. No doubt about that. And the moment you work with that more, it's a tool that helps you to navigate that the karmic landscape much more intelligently. That I can say without doubt. Wow. So you will see that you are getting more aware. Okay, this is coming up. This is coming up. So quite often, what happens when you are regularly chanting Vishnu Sahasranama is that slowly, when situations come up, you will see this namas coming up to the namas, and that energy around the nama will help you to navigate that situation much more easily. So it's a very powerful thing like that. And quite often the same thing happens with with the grahas and nakshatras and so forth. So like I said, there's a lot of potential for that, and application is huge. The moment you have a mathematical thing going on, you can do many kinds of application, many levels actually. You can do it at dasha level. You can do it multiple kind of dasha systems. You can do that just based on the planetary positions in the divisional chart. You can do that also the planetary positions simply in the D1 chart. You can eventually look at the transits and all that. So there's no limit in my view from that perspective. So the more you look at it though, the more you work with it, I'm sure the more secrets of Vishnu Sahasranama will actually come through. It's a very fascinating thing. There's a lot of things you can do. Like I said, looking at look at the moon nakshatra of your birth chart and the nakshatra path in Navamsha, you'll be amazed at how those particular qualities are coming through. And quite often, one of those things that got revealed as I was studying and all that was that some of the namas were remedial actually. Like it was like, okay, you have this placement, this nakshatra has this problem, you need to decide this particular thing or develop this quality so that you can overcome this problem. Some of those namas were like that also. So it was very fascinating like that. So it's not really descriptive in its nature. it also has a prescriptive quality, like like a healing quality to some of those namas also. I'm not highlighted that, but that's definitely there. I can assure you that definitely thing exists. And some of it like if you have the it's like a native a point where a planet is getting exalted, a planet is getting debilitated. You quite easily see how that planetary energy is captured in the nama progression actually. So for instance, everyone who recites Vishnu Sahasranama, you'll see there is a portion where there is a lot of namas beginning with the word Shri. So it goes Shri, Shivalsa, Shri Raja kind of thing. A lot of Shri kind of nama is beginning. If you get a careful look at what is happening from a planetary scale of thing, you actually see it's perfectly matching the Scorpio sign where moon is getting debilitated. It's a way of telling like, okay, here moon is getting debilitated in the Jyotisha scheme of things. You need to improve your mood, chant more Shri here. And that's exactly captured. It's purely captured in Vishnu Sahasranam. So without doubt, whoever has designed the Vishnu Sahasranam knew Jyotisha, they understood the Jyotisha level of karma and all that, and that particular design was made through. Without doubt, it was a very, very perfect kind of thing actually. So it's powerful like that. So even if your moon is debilitated, the Nama would take care of that. So the position where Ashlesha Pada 4 where Mars gets debilitated. Out of nowhere in the Nama, you see Skanda, Skanda Duryo kind of Nama coming. Skanda is of course the god of Mars actually. Mars is getting debilitated there. So you are seeing that actually. So Mars is getting debilitated. Skanda, the name, the god who is linked with the Mars is actually called out as a remedial also. And Vishnu is called as the commander of the chief of army there as Skanda, Skandaduru and all that. So definitely, so Vishnu Sahasranam is very, very powerful like that. So if you can understand the limits and like I said now from a healing perspective, it's amazing. Because if you look at the planet, look at the qualities what that planet has to go through, what the karmas you have to go through, what is that is what you have been resisting and all that kind of thing can be seen. What is the aspect you have to the warning things you have to watch with this particular thing, the qualities you have to develop further, the quality you have to let go further, all that kind of thing can be seen. And quite often some of these characters in the entire Vaishnava system, Aniruddha is considered to be child of Krishna or like something like that. He's having a completing the Vaishnavite system. This is a treasure trove for them actually. So they can do more of that. So whoever is a Vaishnavite, when they get deeper into it, they can do many more things with that. Because each of those things, the Surshana Chakra is basically personified, the Gada is personified, all that amazing thing happens. So, but what I'm saying is it's very deep. There's no limit to what you can do. And it's very amazing because it's actually showing the greatness of that God Vishnu. It's actually showing how you can improve your own karmas. Now, quite often, yogis often say that, your karma is actually happening at the planetary level, so they don't care, they are superior to karma. But you are actually seeing how it can be made superior. The moment you connect with the deeper intelligence of Vishnu, you can see how that energy can actually help you navigating those karmas indicated by the planets. It's a very, very powerful thing. And someone who's feeling at a loss, I can assure you, if you look at the meditate upon the namas, recite the namas slowly. Now, usually, even though the standard approach is to recite a shloka corresponding to your planet, I would encourage to recite the entire nama. After that, recite the shloka corresponding to your planet, like each time. So you can recite each of those shloka 9 times for each planet kind of thing. You have basically got a 99, like 9 times 9 is 81 kind of thing. If you want to do additional shlokas for your, you can do 11 times or 12 times, something like that. Yeah, 12 times if you do each shloka kind of thing. It's a very powerful way to basically capture the gra, not only highlight the entire sasnama, but also capture each of the individual kind of slokas for each of the graphs. And the moment you do that, you will see overall your life gets better in many powerful ways. Mm-hmm. And quite often you will see the quality is coming alive. It's like Vishnu is guiding you should do this kind of thing, or here is an opportunity which you should capitalize on, stuff like that and all that. And like I said, it's a very standard practice. People recite Vishnu Sahasranam in the morning anyway. So that's a pretty standard thing actually. And the people who do that, you will see their Jupiter energy is very strong. They are very intelligent. They have the capacity for more. They approach things in very easier fashion. Because the faculty of intelligence is actually what you get. A very interesting thing that is further research topic is to compare the Vishnu Sahasranama slokas with the 108 namas of individual grahas. Now, what you will begin to see, the namas of grahas is when you say the namas of grahas, you see the things are improving, but the quality of intelligence is lacking. You will actually feel that. So you can get that job, or you can get that relationship, or you can get that health benefit when you recite the nama of the graha, but it's like it's a slow progression. But the moment you're reciting the 108 names of a god or goddess, like that thing is happening, but you also know why it's happening, how it can be happening, and so forth. There's a deeper level of knowledge which can come through the energies which you are dealing with from that perspective. So some energies can be very good at handling the problem at the problem level. some can give you the understanding of how to handle that energy at a deeper level. So that's exactly what is happening with Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishnu is a great preserver, great Trimurti actually. So definitely he helps you not only to how to create and destroy also and to maintain it in a different fashion. It's a very, very powerful thing. So this approach was very unique actually. Like I said, you can actually use it as a complete tool. Whatever Jyotisha thing you're using, you can use Vishnu Sahasranama to supplement it in a deep ways. And that can be done. And that can be done and more, without doubt.
Yeah, fantastic. Good. So finally, where can you be reached for, are you doing consultations and are you taking?
Yeah, I would encourage us to reach out to my email. My email, Dr. Kanholy, my name here, drkanholy@gmail.com. For any questions and queries and all that, I would encourage that actually.